Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Billion Dollar Movie Club. This is the show where each and every week we look at movies that made a whole lot of money, and then we look and go, is there a reason these movies make money or not? I am your co-host, as always, Christian Simpson, and joined with me is
Pawan Mehta.
And Pawan, there's a special edition of the Billion Dollar Movie Club.
Yes, we're not talking about a movie that made $1 billion. No.
We're talking about an honorary member of the Billion Dollar Movie Club. We've knighted it. We've knighted it like Sir Kevin from Minions.
We're talking about Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man 3 from the man Sam Raimi.
Currently the only third Spider-Man movie that exists.
I guess you could quantify it as that, yes. It depends how you count your Spider-Man. Far From Home is the third MCU film with a Spider-Man in it.
But it's not named.
Oh, no, sorry, in Infinity War. Spider-Man 3 released on May 4th, 2007 with a budget, this is fascinating, no confirmed budgets. It's estimated to be somewhere between $258 million and $350 million.
It's a wide girth.
It is quite the range. A headline from Brandon Gray, who may or may not still be at Box Office Mojo. Spider-Man 3 soars into record books. When the film opened, it opened to $151.1 million domestically at 4,252 locations around the country. It was the largest opening weekend and the widest opening weekend. Largest and widest opening weekend for any film at that point in 2007. The film would go on to gross. I cannot speak today. Can I just message you these notes and you do them?
I mean, you know what? If you want to send me the numbers right now, we'll just keep all this in.
The film grossed $336 million domestically and a worldwide total of $894 million. At the time, it was the 15th highest grossing film domestically and 13th worldwide. Currently sits at 60th domestically and 64th worldwide. So I think
those
that's
are some numbers.
It opened very large and sustained it to an extent, not fully. I think it's interesting if you look, the first film was such a gigantic hit, especially domestically. 2 was a step down, and then 3 was a step down domestically, but worldwide was an increase. And up until, I believe it's up until Far From Home, it was the highest grossing Spider-Man.
Cool.
It's a long time. Pawan, I've never seen the Raimi movies before this week. I believe you have as well, right?
Oh, I grew up with these movies, specifically 1 and 2. I had those on DVD. I finally got my hands on 3 on DVD, though, in preparation for this, of course.
It is fascinating to have not grown up with these movies. I randomly would see parts of 1 throughout my youth. It was hard to avoid it. But as I got into movies and superhero stuff, it was like, Sam Raimi movies, they're the best. They're incredible. And I'm like, I'll get to them eventually. And then I did. I enjoyed the first 2. They're solid flicks. I enjoyed them very much.
Yes, I mentioned. I hear that you didn't mention the third one in that sentence.
3 is frustrating. I will put this out there. I don't like 3. 3 is far from the worst movie we've seen for this podcast. We've reached such low lows that I can't hate this one.
Before we get too deep into it, should we give a synopsis?
Oh, you're right. Wow, we almost skipped that. One, what happens in this picture?
Okay, so we start off and Peter Parker's like, yeah, I'm doing good. I know last movie I was a little messed up with the Spider-Man and the Peter Parker, but I found that balance. I'm living that life. And he's just doing good. And he's on dates with Mary Jane. He's asking his aunt for marriage, for blessings for marriage. And he's about to go get married to her. But then, oh no, there comes his best friend swooping in, trying to kill him. Because he killed his father all the way back in the first one. but he didn't kill his father. So they have a little kerfuffle, and then Harry loses his memory. He gets bonked. He gets bonked on the head, and then he's gone for like half the movie until later, where he's like, I remember things now, and then I want him and Mary Jane to be not together anymore. And while this is happening, we go back. There's this man who's made out of sand, and he's trying to get money for his daughter's health.
May I preface, not at first. He's not at first made out of sand.
Right. He's just a common burglar, but then he hits the particles, and the particles hit him back, and he becomes the sand. And then he's just trying to get money for his daughter, which Spider-Man won't let him. And then while that's happening, Spider-Man got a new suit. He's looking fresh. He's looking emo. He's looking dank. And this all culminates in Spider-Man with his buddy who turned on him, but now is with him again, fighting off against one of the biggest villains in Spider-Man history and Sandman. That's the movie. There's a lot that happens in this movie.
As I said before, I enjoyed the first two Spider-Man. I don't love the first two Spider-Man. There's a lot to like, though, and a lot to love. The two things that, well, the largest thing that bothers me is that main trio of Toby Mcguire, Kirsten Dunst, and I had no clue James Franco was such a major part of these movies, is that I never believed them as a trio of best friends. I found Franco to be completely one note throughout this entire franchise. Kirsten Dunst, half her lines is just her screaming. She's nothing outside of her relationship with Peter, and I guess she wants to be an actress. And Peter is such a wet blanket in the same way that Harry and Harry Potter is. It's not a bad thing, but he's not the most enticing protagonist. And so this film tries to build off that trio that never worked for me as a whole. I enjoyed those three actors as actors, fuck Franco, but as an actor, I usually enjoy him. And it never works. And this film tries to make it more personal in a way that the other two they lean toward, but I don't find that they're as built upon that trio. And just the villains, they're cool to look at, but I don't know what they did for Peter in this movie.
What do you mean?
They seem so unnecessary. I don't know how they test Peter and how Peter grows in this one. I get a sense of Peter being different by the end of the first one and the second one. I don't know what it is we're learning about him, because his conflict in this movie is, he's a dick.
What?
But he was never really a dick before this one.
Well, it's more like because he did get that confidence from balancing the two so much, his ego is built up to this level where he does become that asshole sort of persona.
Sure. It was unintentional at first until Venom takes over him and then explores this darker side to Peter that was never really there. Also, Peter being like, he didn't care about the fact that he killed Uncle Ben's kill in the first one. Like that, he never really thinks too deeply about that. And then it suddenly comes back in this one. And then you're introduced to this like darker Peter that he's a good boy. That's what his landlord said.
Yeah.
Part of my confusion with him and Mary Jane is that I don't get why Mary Jane likes him, other than that he's nice to her when no one else was, which I guess is fine, but that's all that relationship is built off of.
So, listen, I can't speak much to that because most of the time these romances just don't work for me at all. Okay. So if anything, the trio dynamic in this one felt a lot more like melodrama, sort of like soap opera-y, where
Yeah, and it was never. It felt like it should have been built up to throughout them being in the three movies, but the fact that that trio never felt like a tight knit group of friends never made sense to me. Like
I
Mary
don't know
Jane's
if I
only
agree with
friends,
that. I
her
mean,
only.
at least okay, for me, it always felt like Mary Jane was kind of a third wheel.
I never understood how she and Harry are friends, but they act like they're best friends, and then they suddenly have a spark in this one, which I guess because Peter's kind of pushing her away. But like, I never understood why they hooked up in the first one, other than plot.
Okay, so for the first one, it very much was a plot driven film in that it just went from moment to moment to moment without really focusing too deeply on the characters that much.
The first one is an 8-year-old boy's fantasy of what a superhero movie is, and it does it very well. And then I think the second one takes that and then grounds it a little bit and starts playing with the weight of being a superhero, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what this one's doing because it tosses all these ideas, and as soon as I think, okay, this is what it's doing, it goes, nope, Sandman disappears for half the movie, and now Venom's here.
So this is very much a movie where people, when it was coming out, were like, oh, this movie was ruined by studio notes. Raimi didn't make the movie he wanted to make and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it the whatever Raimi's original story was might have gotten muddled in that.
Yeah, that is frustrating. I get it. I don't think this is the worst movie ever. It's a frustrating movie.
Though the, there were rumors after this came out that there was going to be a Spider-Man 4.
I do remember that.
Rewatching this now, I don't see how they could have. This really felt like an
Really?
ending. This really felt like a culminating moment for the trilogy, if
It
anything, like
felt
where they
so
were bringing
anticlimactic.
everything together.
I felt that and it was so anti. I guess because Franco and the Green Goblin is such a important element of it, but it felt like it cut off so anticlimactically. It
Okay,
just ends.
I'm not really a fan of the final scene, especially like the ramifications of like what that means in terms of their relationship. Because like after that initial jazz club scene, that she should not go back together.
No, she shouldn't. But she's the woman in the comic book movie. She has to get with him and scream half the time. But like, what does he learn from Franco dying? Because there was a monologue and I just zoned out because it didn't make sense to me.
What do you mean by learn?
He was talking about how he learned from Harry.
So the reason why I like this movie,
Okay. Again, I don't think it's the worst movie of all time, but it is frustrating for me.
it isn't as much about the character relations and like the script. It's more how it was made. Like in
Hmm.
terms of like shot decisions, acting choices, like that scene where he's practicing his proposal before Mary Jane shows up. It's priceless for me. That shit's
I
priceless.
don't even remember what that scene was.
It was just him being like, "Oh, champagne? Should we get some champagne? Oh, how'd that get in there?"
Was he in his apartment, right?
No. That one was when he was already at the table, just like
Okay.
practicing to.
What do you like about that?
Oh no, I just liked how like it gave off that goofy like energy that Peter Parker would have in that sort of scene, like that giddiness, yet also like he is a dork, and it's great.
Yes, sure. And I enjoyed Toby Mcguire in the role, but I don't know. This is the darkest of the three in a literal sense, right?
Yeah.
And I think it wants to be that tonally. But the first two are so heightened to the extreme, and it loses a bit of that energy in this one. It loses its personality in this one because it's so much darker.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, the one aspect I will give you is that you don't really get a sense of the New York as a whole in this one,
Yes.
because you don't really get those montages and those scenes where it focuses on the people, because this movie's a lot more focused on the trio. Yeah, I think that's the big difference. The first two movies were focused more on like seeing different facets of New York, so you don't really get much character development for any singular character. It's more about the place as character.
Which, shout out to this movie. Although all the main speaking roles are white people, I did enjoy whenever you saw people in the crowd, they gave all the people of color lines, because it's been just because it takes place in New York doesn't mean that it's diverse in movies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I like that all the criminals who like were robbing people were the white people. They never have a person of color. Which, like, that's nice. That's nice. But yeah, it's. I feel like this isn't about his relationship as Spider-Man in this one, as much as it was in the previous ones.
I don't know. It feels like in this one, he really wanted to project that aspect of being fine now so much that when he got the new suit, he was like, I'm better than I ever was, even though like emotionally he was teetering a lot more.
But isn't part of that the fact that he was unaware of other people and the ramifications? The closest thing I can think of Peter's arc in this movie, right, is the fact that he is so focused on himself that he ignores the others. And so by paying less attention to them, he pushes them away. But in the end, he overcomes, Venom and Sandman team up and they almost beat him. And then he teams up with Franco and then they beat them, because it's that line Kirsten Dunst has of like, everyone needs help sometimes, even Spider-Man. And so there's something about, the fact that we can't do it by ourselves. But then that kind of is kind of pushed back upon by the fact that the city is such less of a character, if you will, in this one and compared to the last one. You're not going to have they're not carrying him above their heads in the train in this one.
Sure, but like in that sense, you do get a little bit more of the personality because, well, going off of what you were saying,
okay,
he is focusing more on the people in his life, which is why this isn't as like a snapshot of individuals as much as like focusing on the people around him.
Sure. I don't think it works though, because they never built up those relationships, were nothing more than paper thin in the previous films. To me, he and Franco never felt like best friends.
I think that also just comes down to focus in terms of what the movies were trying to do.
But
like, I get where you're coming from, but
it's although fine. It's not the focus, but like the chemistry between two actors is never the focus, but it should be built upon on screen, and hopefully you cast people that have that chemistry. I never thought him and Franco were.
I felt that from them.
You think?
Yeah, I felt that at least.
Okay. I do wonder. That's one of those actors where I'm like, every time I see them on screen now, part of me just hates them already. So that could always be a factor. But yeah, even I don't think they were cute together, Toby and Kirsten, but like I didn't feel sparks flying. Other than just, that they're cute together. They're cute kids. Those cute kids are gonna get together.
I'm not gonna speak on that because again, I hate love.
Oh. I'm sorry.
So let's talk about the one aspect that everybody loves about this movie. Emo Peter.
Go ahead.
Do you have nothing to say about that sequence?
Do you want me to be the killjoy first or after?
You know what? Go ahead. Start. Okay. You know what? No. Fuck it. I'm going to provide positive before you destroy this.
I will say, I feel like people call out that scene as being like, oh, it's out of nowhere. That's a dumb scene to have out of nowhere. But like The second movie has the raindrops keep falling on my head scene, which feels like it's of the same cloth. So I'm like, that's not the problem with that moment.
Um, I really liked it because it did give off that sense of he really thinks he's some hot shit at this moment, but you can see how everyone around him is just like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude?
But does he, or is that just the Venom?
I mean, symbiotic relationship. So Venom feeds off of him. He feeds off of Venom.
Maybe it's just me. It never felt like that was Peter because my mind went, oh, the Venom took over. I don't know how Venom works. How does Venom work? But it was like, okay, that's not Peter. That's a different dude. That is literally a different dude. And so, like, I spent that whole montage going, like, well, what am I supposed to take away from this montage? That he's a dick?
But he's not a different dude. It's, again, that's the thing. He's not a different person. It's just him, like, with a heightened sense of like self-importance and confidence to the point of too much ego.
But did they not show that earlier?
Yeah, but then this heightened it even more. Like, this was the, it kept building and building, and then with the symbiote, it just kept going all the way up.
Okay.
One thing I will say, though, in terms of his relationship with Harry in this one, if I was Harry, I would not have come for that final scene because, my God, does he beat the shit out of him?
No, nothing with Harry makes. And I really liked the first fight with Harry and Spidey when he ends up losing his memory. I enjoyed that sequence, and I love how dynamic the camera is in this one, as it follows through and then just kind of rushes through New York City. All three of them really, and I don't know if that's captured as much so in I think it's the MCU movies. I don't remember too much of the Amazing Spider-Man, but I felt like the height of his ego was when he kissed Bryce Dallas Howard, a friend of the show, and I'm like, you're this fucking dumb that you didn't think that this would be a problem for Mary Jane.
I could see that.
It just felt like so much of this movie unnecessary. But also, I don't know what was necessary because I don't know what this movie was trying to do with Peter. Like, what was it trying to do?
Listen, I don't know if I buy into that classic Aristotelian sense of drama that you keep trying to tout right now.
What is happening to the character in this movie? I'm genuinely asking if you have an answer because I don't. The first movie is him coming into his powers. The second is him trying to. Second is about him choosing to be the hero, not because he has to, but because he knows that's what he needs to do. What is his evolution in this other than, hey, let me pay attention to my friends?
Again, it's the fact that like all of those previous things were all focused on him and what he needs, as opposed to like taking into account the people around him. So it's like the second movie ends with his thing being like, yes, I can be Spider-Man and be Peter Parker at the same time. But he never really takes into account the people around him, even in that movie, as much.
Sure.
So that's what this movie is dealing with.
So what does it end with? Oh, shit happens to them?
I don't know. I feel like by the end, he is more aware of the people around him. I mean, okay, you don't get much of the aftermath in this movie. There isn't much there because like most of the movie is spent in the middle.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't get that sense of catharsis in this one. But like, it's fun. I don't think it's 100% necessary.
So what's the point of Sandman in this one? Shouts to Thomas Hayden Church is awesome in this. I like the introduction of the character and what they do to it, but then why do we need him connected to the Uncle Ben thing? to learn that, hey, not everyone's full good, full evil? Was that the point of it? Because I feel like that in itself could have been one exploration for Peter, but again, it's so much that whatever the movie wants to do is lost. It's frustrating. I want to like this.
I mean, I'd
It's stuff
say
I like
why
about
not
it.
both? Because like it does tie into his aspect of like because at this point he doesn't see Uncle Ben as much as a person as like that quote and like that
Yes, he's a
figure.
mystical figure. That's how the movies always look at Uncle Ben.
Right. I
And
don't know. I feel like the
you could
first
argue
one,
that's how they also look at Aunt May. Aunt May's Rosemary Harris is lovely in these movies, but Aunt May's not really a complex character. What does she
I
do? She pops
I
up and
just
gives advice. She
I,
pops up and gives advice.
I just remember that's moment from Spider-Man 1 where like they're at the Thanksgiving table and then she smacks
Willem Dafoe's hand.
yeah, and then it's like we finish the prayer first. Say the prayer first and then like when Green Goblin comes in like capture he's like finish.
I apologize. I cut you off. What do you think this movie does with the Uncle Ben figure?
um it feels like it very much is the point where he feels like he needs to uphold Ben, but he goes about it the wrong way initially, where he's like, I need to avenge his death, which is not
Sure,
what he would have wanted.
sure. It still ends by like deifying Ben because Ben was trying to tell Sandman to do the right thing and turn around.
Listen, sometimes it's good to have deities.
But I'm just like, how is that different from what Ben was in the? So much of this film feels like a real retread. Why did we need the love triangle again? I thought we were done with that in the first one.
I mean, it kind of comes up in all three movies.
Does it come? I don't. If you told me James Franco wasn't in the second one, I'd
Oh
believe you
no,
because
no,
he
no, no,
does nothing in the
not
second one.
James Franco in the second one. There's a different love triangle in the second one.
Oh, the dude who I didn't realize till the end of the movie was J.K. Simmons' son. The dude who obviously is not going to get with MJ because MJ has no actual interest in him.
Yeah, but he's
The
an
dude who's there
astronaut.
as a plot device. Why does she need to be married at such a young age? Can't she just be herself? Can't she just be awesome?
Okay, you know what? These movies don't do Mary Jane justice. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. You could take it. Here you go. Take it.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is great. I'm gonna. Oh, I hear it
It's
rattling
not
around.
much. Now take it.
Yeah, it's frustrating. What? Why did we need Gwen Stacy? Another character who's there for plot and nothing else. And then her dad's there just because he's a character in the comics. He adds nothing to this. And we haven't even touched Topher Grace.
Again, see the thing is, this very much feels like a comic book movie in the sense that in the comic books, what you have like 24, 28 pages to tell your story.
Okay.
You don't have much time to develop your characters.
Yes, but comics don't you in mind have the idea that there are going to be multiple issues that you can drag it out and evolve it over time?
There's still one comic, one like
One shots.
one shots, yeah, and
But
stuff like that.
sure.
The thing is, I still think this is better in terms of I like this more than the MCU in terms of character growth because it's not lying to you about that. Because the MCU character growth, it feels so much like bullshit. Whereas this one, it is very heavily plot driven, but I don't know. I feel like there's an honesty to that. Whereas with the Marvel
How
movies, it really is just like I'm going through this thing, and then I'm going to end in this very precarious situation with you. What's going to happen in the next movie, and then it's just completely fine.
can you bring out specifics or at least define what you mean by this Spider-Man being plot-driven character growth?
Again, very much with like Harry throughout the trilogy, where it is like, yes, you killed my father, so I am angry at Spider-Man. Wait. Harry is definitely a big part of two. What are you talking about?
What does he do? I straight up do not remember anything he does to except like connect uh, Peter with Harry. No, Doc Ock.
I mean, again, it is very
He's the
plot,
middleman in that movie. That's it.
but he's also the enabler for Doc Ock in that one.
Sure, but that could also just be a generic rich dude.
I mean, sure, but the fact that it is that character that further carries his stuff over as well.
I also found that he didn't have much stuff in the first one other than, oh, my dad doesn't like me. I will say the reveal of Willem Dafoe in 2, badass. That was a great reveal.
Again, like that does, yes, it is very simple, like one sentence explanations for like character moments and
Yeah.
what they're doing, which I don't think is a bad thing.
I'm just saying that's what I didn't like about it.
Because again, like,
It
okay,
I
these
do,
movies
okay.
aren't trying to be Shakespearean dramas.
I'd argue by 2 and 3 it's starting to. I do think this what this the Raimi trilogy does so well that I think was lost after Nolan did Batman Begins, and then MCU started going in that direction. Everything's so grounded and real, and in trying to be so real, it loses its soul. There is that whimsy of the comic book nature to these movies. I think 3 has the least of them, but that's part of what I loved about Into the Spider Verse so well, and was surprised to see captured in this movie, is that it does feel like I cartoony typically has a negative connotation when you talk about live action movies, but I mean this in the best way possible. I love how cartoony it feels, how wacky it is. The sound effects, the sound team really works their ass off in these movies in a way that some of the other movies we watch had not. And I think of like it's a little in the Sandman in his transformation, but you get a lot more in the Green Goblin and the Doc Ock.
Speaking of Sandman,
it
though,
turns into like a horror movie,
right?
and it is that heightened reality that is so fun to explore. I think this one loses a little because it's so dark. But you were saying with Sandman?
One thing about Sandman is I'm surprised at how well those particle effects held up.
Oh yeah, the effects of all 3 hold up pretty solidly. Like not perfectly, but pretty solidly.
And one thing I really, really, really like about this trilogy is that you do get a sense of like the individual ways that these villains fight.
Yes.
And like it is a different sort of fight depending on the powers or like move set that each person has, which you don't really get from superhero movies these days.
Yeah, I don't know where this started, but we hit that point where every movie ended with the hero fighting a bad version of themselves.
Iron Man.
Is that the first time that happened?
I mean, you could argue it was Batman Begins again.
Yeah, but even in this one, like this one has Spidey versus Venom, but they don't even feel like that much of the same as some of the other later instances where we see that happen.
Right. But okay, I might also just be thinking it does very much feel like in most superhero movies today, it does end up just being a punching match, whereas they're not really utilizing their powers in unique ways.
I will say on that note, how did James Franco defeats Sandman, just really strong missiles. Because I agreed with you up until that point in this movie when Sandman just goes down for the count for no reason.
Okay, I will admit he does get lost in that fight a little bit because he does come back after it's over as
as his normal self, and then just this. But like his earlier fights with Spider-Man are great.
Yeah,
and I like the fact that he wasn't this concrete thing. Like whenever Peter tries to fight him, he just disappears, and I felt like that could have been like, oh, Peter's losing his hand on things, everything's disappearing. But no, they didn't want to play into that. They just wanted to make him into mud and disappear for half the movie.
Another thing I will say about that final fight in this one, the stakes were very palpable because even though it was so big, you could see the individual elements of like MJ being in danger each time as still. And like the fact that it was like focused in on such a specific thing, I feel like that helped.
I weirdly found that although I enjoyed a lot of the action sequences in this trilogy, the Green Goblin final fight doesn't stand out as in my mind, or even the Doc Ock fight.
That's
like
crazy.
They felt very quick, and not in a bad way. They don't feel as monumental as some of the others in other superhero movies. And I found this one dragged a little bit more in comparison to those previous two.
Again, it really feels like there's the iconic moments in the fight, and that is just the fight. It's not. It's made up of these little iconic moments.
Which one are you talking about?
The previous ones, not this final fight.
I don't even know what the iconic moments of those fights are.
Well, of course, in the first one, there's the moment where Green Goblin kills himself.
So the iconic moment of the fight is the ending of the fight.
Well, okay, there are many such moments, at least in Spider-Man 2. That's the one I know the most about because I saw that one a shit ton. I have the board game. I have the video game. I have the soundtrack. Just wanted to put that out there. I know it's completely unrelated.
Do you have the cozy slippers? The cozy slippers that came if you watched it opening day? I don't know. And again, 9 inches. I found they brisked by, and I was missing something to those final fights. My favorite action sequence, I kind of entered it thinking, oh, this will never talk about it. It'll be fine. But I really did enjoy that train sequence in 2. And I don't think any of the other action sequences felt as I don't want to say monumental again, but there wasn't the same weight to any other fights. Maybe it's because you knew the train was about to come to the end, and that's the fear there. But I really enjoyed that fight, and none of the others.
I don't know. I feel like you get that from the big, like, I forget which holiday it was, but that holiday fight in 1 had that same energy. Not as great, I'll give you that.
I'm just trying to figure out which fight this is. What do you mean a holiday fight?
The one where he's jumping on the balloons.
Oh, when Kirsten Dunst is randomly in like a Chinese robe or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, is this okay? Why? This is so unnecessary. Was that a holiday? I thought Oscorp was celebrating something about Oscorp.
No, it was like Earth Day or some shit.
Of course, Earth Day. It's a fun fight, but yeah, it didn't grab me as I would have liked an action sequence too, but I did enjoy it. It does boggle my mind that people so Raimi does the Spider-Man trilogy, and then he does, what's the horror movie he did after that? This, like, Never Let Me Go or something. You know what I'm talking about?
Drag Me to Hell.
Drag Me to Hell. He does that. And then he does Oz the Great and Powerful, which I saw way back when and enjoyed it, but I was like a dumb 11-year-old. Actually, probably like 14, 15 years, still dumb. He hasn't done a movie since. And he is now attached to the Doctor Strange sequel. And the internet fucking orgasmed when they heard that happen. It was a mess. And it shocks me that people think that's a good idea.
Why?
Because, and this isn't an insult to Raimi. He does an incredible job with the trilogy, and again, the whims he captures is something that a lot of later blockbusters lose. But it's so different from the MCU formula that I don't know if I want to see an MCU down version of Raimi's superhero film.
To be honest, that for me, that is what the MCU feels like already. Just a watered down version of the Raimi like trilogy.
I think it'll be such a different film from the original Spider-Man trilogy, and everyone thinks it'll just be like the Spider-Man trilogy. I do think there's a world where he takes, I mentioned earlier, the little horror elements, like the body horror of Doc Ock becoming Doc Ock, et cetera, et cetera. And I think you could play with that with Doctor Strange. I think they tried doing that in the first Doctor Strange a bit, and that could be something. I am hesitant to say I'm excited to see him direct an MCU movie, because I'd rather it just be a Sam Raimi movie than a Sam Raimi MCU movie.
Well, I will say at this point, that is one of the few Marvel movies I do plan on seeing at this point that are coming out. Like, I'm still iffy on Eternals.
I'm sold on it just because of the cast and the director. That's all I need.
I don't know, like the screenshots and stuff. I'm not liking how it looks. It looks too drab.
It looks like drab. Nomadland. It looks like Nomadland, but with superheroes.
Yeah, but like it looks like it's missing color.
Yeah.
And I ain't about that.
It's exactly what I would expect a Chloe Zhao superhero movie to be. Which is wild, because I didn't know what I thought a Chloe Zhao superhero movie would be until I saw the trailer. Like, yeah, this is what you would expect from the person who did The Rider and Nomadland, and I'm ready for it.
Okay, what elements of this movie have? Let's talk about the jazz club scene, the big one. What did you think of that?
Again, it's why does this movie want you to hate Peter Parker so fucking much? And you did that already a third of the way into the movie, and it just keeps hammering it in that nail.
Okay, one thing I will say is I am very much a fan of the insert shots in this movie. For example, the moment where it's like just a close-up on his mouth and he says, "Now dig on this."
Okay.
That's cinematic perfection. All right.
I can't tell if you like this or you like it ironically, which is different.
Okay. I am genuinely a fan of that moment. That is a beautiful moment.
Why?
Because it captures the emotion so goddamn well. What are you talking about? Why? It is.
I don't even know what moment you're talking about. I hated watching the jazz club scene.
Just that entire thing with the way, like, the rapid cuts and the way the camera moved and all that, it very much felt jarring, yet what's the word I'm looking for? It felt like a song version. It's like a musical fight scene. That's what it felt like.
But why was it in the movie?
I mean, that's his lowest point, is it not?
I feel like we hit that so many times. It just, I don't.
Okay, I get it. You did not connect to the plot because you thought he already hit that point near the beginning of the movie, so most of the movie was not necessary for you. I get that. You were not connected to the characters in this one. I was there for that ride. That's
And
what I'm saying.
I enjoy the actors. I usually am like, you're gonna fly through it. I let the actors can bring a lot to it, but it just, I don't know. This movie just frustrated me as I got. I enjoyed the beginning, and then it just pissed me off as it went along.
I don't know what to say to that.
See, now you know how I felt when we were talking about Beauty and the Beast and Rogue One.
I didn't hate Rogue One.
You were a lot more against it than I was, though. But like, it's just like, no, it just doesn't. This movie makes no sense to me. Why is Sandman connected to Ben's killer? Why does Peter care about killing the killer when he didn't care in the first one after he did it? Why is Franco watching Mary Jane in the musical in the beginning? Why are they still friends?
What do you mean? Why are they still friends?
Because why are they still friends? Why were they friends in the first place? I hated. There's a line. I don't know if it's 2 or 3, but Mary Jane's like, "Oh, Peter, we've been friends for all these years." But if you watch the first one, she's not a friend. She's not his friend. She's not his friend until after high school. They barely know each other. They barely talked when they were neighbors.
I don't know if I'd say they.
They have one conversation after he fights Flash.
I don't know. I felt like maybe that was a common occurrence for them. It just we didn't see all those scenes.
But there was no bond between the two characters. She felt like she was always felt like she was in another world. And so for her to say, we've been friends for all these years, it's like, no, you weren't. You're neighbors. That's it. And her and Harry never made sense. And her and Harry being friends after that made no sense.
Again, I feel like this comes back to the idea of Peter not viewing the people in his life as like others, or just like being like that's part of that thing, just like seeing them as objects in a way.
So you're saying the flat, paper thin characterization of these two characters is a reflection of Peter's psyche?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's where we're landing on this?
Yes, I will defend that.
You can't just be like, no, this movie has flaws.
I mean, yeah, but like I was there for the characters in this one. I don't know what to tell you.
It is a complete opposite day today. Who'd have thunk? Okay.
Like I don't feel like it was just. I feel like this is the movie where it finally addresses the fact that the previous two movies were like, oh yeah, she likes this acting thing, where she was like, you really don't know about what's happening in my life.
Yeah, I do give this film points for trying to flesh out MJ a bit, but it all ends up revolving around Peter.
Okay, you know what, Miss Simpson, what's this movie called?
Spider-Man 3. There are 3 characters. You give attention to. You ignore MJ and Harry, thus leaving one left. And this is what I give you, film.
But the name is Spider-Man. Is MJ Spider-Man in this one?
Ant-Man gives a little attention to Wasp, and then 2 becomes Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Well, this one's not called Spider-Man and MJ and New Goblin. All right, it's not.
Saying. Black Panther, spoiler alert for a film we'll talk about later, dies like 2/3 of the way of the movie, and then we get to focus on the other characters. Your title character isn't your only character.
Oh no, I was just trying to make a stupid point.
New Girl is an ensemble show. New Girl's not just about the new girl, all right? There's other characters in New Girl.
Oh yeah, but what's that song that plays at the beginning of that? It's, who's that girl? Ooh, it's Jess. It's only about Jess. It's all Jess.
It's all in jest. Wow, it is a sitcom, so it is all in jest. I do want to. I liked the Sandman Spidey fight in the tunnels. That was fun. And when he like throws Sandman's face against the train and it, like scars his face.
If anything, I felt like that's the most brutal fight you get in this trilogy because that is him
Sure.
with the black suit and being
Sure.
more aggro. Because
Yeah,
at that point, he isn't trying to just save someone. He is there just to kill,
yeah, I agree. I enjoyed that fight.
which is very palpable and which is again great points towards the fight choreography in this that you really do get that sense from how the characters fight.
I have a question for you about the semantics of cinema.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is there a singular fight coordinator who figures out, especially when it's VFX driven? Is the VFX team part of this conversation? Is it the director? Like, who do we think is in charge of those decisions? Is it the writers and the storyboard artists, maybe? Because it's not just one person.
No,
I agree. The choreography is great, but I question how that's done. Obviously, neither of us have the answer.
right.
But what do you think? Do
Um,
you think there's a guy named Bob? Does Bob go around telling people what to do?
yeah, there's one man named Bob who does all the fight choreography for every movie in existence. He's lived before cinema and he will die after cinema.
I truly loved his work in, I don't know, Ella Enchanted, which I think of a random movie.
I loved his work in Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times.
Oh, Modern Times, he did great work in that. Not as great work later on when he did The Dictator, but Modern Times is really the peak Charlie Chaplin fight choreography. But when he was fighting that globe, not the same thing.
The way he was fighting that clock, perfection.
Yeah, I heard they reused that choreography for A Clockwork Orange. But they had to rework it to include the orange in the fight. Speaking of oranges, I like his landlord. He gives him a hard time, but he does care about the kid.
Yeah.
And does the landlord's daughter, I assume,
yeah, Ursula,
daughter, right? She randomly gets a name in this, and she has a crush on Peter, right?
Yeah.
So why is she so happy to give him the phone when MJ's on the phone?
Well,
like, that's me full on nitpicking, but like,
okay, I could see where she's coming from. She just wants to see him happy, man.
Well, doesn't she think
she's living her best life, hoping the best for others? All right.
Doesn't Ursula think that Peter being with Ursula is the best for Peter?
No.
Wow. Yeah, I appreciate her self-awareness. Also, I feel like Peter never said thank you for the cake she gives him in 2. And fuck Peter. That's when I turned on Peter. Not even 3. That's when I fully turned on Peter.
Yo. I'm going to channel my inner... There was a video game donkey video about this movie.
A what?
You don't know the YouTuber Video Game Donkey?
No, what?
You should check him out. He's great. He did a video about this movie where he brought up that moment where Ursula makes cookies for him.
Oh,
and
God.
how Peter asks for cookies with nuts in them. And like Donkey made the cinematic, like he made the literary analysis that is the moment where we should realize that Peter has gone nuts because he wants the nuts. He is the nuts. He is nuts.
If he's gone nuts, does he not already have said nuts? Why would you need more nuts if you already have gone it?
Because they're gone.
Walmart, I don't want another Walmart.
Because the nuts are gone, so he needs more.
Oh, so it's not like he's going nuts, but he's gone nuts. He's added to the Gone Girl cinematic universe. This new entry, Gone Nuts. Okay,
exactly, yes.
We haven't discussed much about Venom yet. And let me say, I fucking hated when I don't even know the full line, but Peter's like, well, if you want, you should find religion. And then so Topher Grace goes to a church. You're fucking kidding me.
If you want forgiveness.
If you want forgiveness, go to church. And he wants forgiveness. He wants forgiveness and also to ask God to kill Spidey. Also, Topher Grace dies. No one cares. Does Gwen know this? Does she know he's dead, or does she think he just ran away?
So the thing is, they also kind of set up Topher Grace as a sleazeball in this one, because there was that moment where like he did meet up with Gwen Stacy. Yeah, that's her name. And then she's like, that was just one coffee date.
Oh, he is a sleazeball. I'm not saying he's not a sleazeball.
No, what I'm also saying is that Gwen didn't really care about him.
Oh, so you were saying when he told not J.K. Simmons, I thought it was J.K. Simmons. No, Gwen's dad, that he was her boyfriend, he was lying.
Well, because like they went on one coffee day. He's like, yeah, we're totally dating.
I see. That makes more sense. I get it. But yeah, I like Topher Grace, right? He's awesome in Black Klansman. I grew up loving that 70s show, and he's awesome in that. He's fine as Brock, but as soon as he's Venom and the Venom mouth moves and he talks, I'm like, no, your voice should not come out of the suit.
I thought it was fine.
Okay. Once he's Venom, he's going for like a Willem Dafoe levels of extreme.
Yeah, and I love it.
I'll give him that. I think Dafoe in the first one and even Molina in the second one have this kind of Jekyll and Hyde thing of the two versions of their characters. And so I didn't find it as effective when it's either asshole or mega asshole. Because that's just two sides of the same coin, you know? But yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of Grace in this. There wasn't much grace to the role, if you will.
Again, it did feel like the symbiote just heightened the douchebag nature of these characters. Like, that's what it did. Don't get me wrong. Topher Grace did not. Tom Hardy is my titular Eddie Brock right now. I will say that.
Titular Eddie Brock? There's no movie called Eddie Brock. That's not how that word works.
He's my signature version of that role.
Quintessential?
Yes.
What, and I am
You know what? Maybe I didn't, but I do now. See, we learn something new every day.
Wait, did you ask me about the titular character of Spider-Man 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Listen, sometimes you gotta keep speaking, and you're reaching for words, and you get different words. That's just what happens.
Oh no, that's how you know you've gone nuts.
It's like in Spider-Man 2 when you're like swinging, and then it's just not coming, and then you fall to the ground.
Which funny scene, yes. He should be dead.
I mean, so should Harry Osborn in this movie twice over.
He does eventually.
Well, twice over, and then dies the third one. Like, if anything.
Yeah, how did the bomb not kill him?
Yeah. Like if getting the bomb should have killed him much more than getting stabbed.
We see the bomb in the first one. The first one, Willem Dafoe tosses it on the balcony. It lands in the middle of a group of like 6 people.
And it disintegrates
them. They turn into skeletons, and then the skeletons disappear. When this one she turns into Two-Face. That's it. Also, what happened to Sandman at the end of this movie? Is he dead?
No, he escaped.
And that's
Spider-Man's not a cop, all right?
But there's more to that story, is there not?
Spider-Man's not a cop.
Anticlimactic, it just ends.
Again, it comes back to that thing of like forgiveness. He's letting go of that moment.
Isn't that what Aunt May does with him in the second one? When he tells her that he thinks it's his fault Uncle Ben's dead? And then he
Yeah,
realizes he must let go of the past to move forward.
but now he found someone new to project that pain on, and he did that.
Sure, let's do it all again. You know, I think he should be bitten by
Listen,
a spider again.
listen. People don't just move forward, okay, Miss Simpson?
But, so you're telling me there's a grounded approach, is a grounded film grounded in reality that's looking for a realistic portrayal of characters?
I wouldn't say that, but I don't even know what you want anymore. Like, what
I don't
did you
know what I
want?
want. I don't want anything. I just want to enjoy a movie. And then I watch, I'm like, no, I don't enjoy it. I wanted to so much. This isn't like, you know, I went into the Transformers movies. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be shit. It was shit. And then I went into like Pirates 4, and I was like, no, 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 no. But like, I'll be honest, I was expecting to hate the Raimi trilogy. I enjoyed the first two very much, and it's just, I don't know. It frustrated me, this movie.
I mean, there's very much a lot of things in this trilogy that just keeps getting brought up. Like, I guess in your term, and if you want to look at it in a negative light, that gets recycled. For
What?
example, in the first movie, there was the fire in the building that turned out to be Green Goblin looking for a fight.
Sure.
And then in the second one, when Peter wasn't being Spider-Man, it was just a building on fire.
But I feel like for the character, it did something different each time. The first one was him, and it just relaxed as his normal Spider-Man. Like, okay, I'm just gonna save the day, and boom, there was danger that he was not expecting. Right. Second one is him choosing to rescue and be the hero again after he's given up being the hero. It's okay to reuse. I don't want just original for the sake of originality.
Okay, so
But
in
I
this
want
one,
it to
in
make sense for
terms
the
of
characters and what
the
you're doing with the
reason why
character.
the character regressed in that way is also with the black symbiote, like festering all those negative emotions and all those negative thoughts and mentality.
But all of
So
that felt so out of nowhere. He never felt remorse for killing Uncle Ben's killer in the first one, unless I completely missed that somehow.
I'm pretty sure he did. Like, it was an accident the way he killed him.
It felt like the movie just brushes by it. And even if so, it's never brought up later on in the movie as this thing that's weighing on him. So for it to come out of nowhere after he seemed to have been fine with it, I didn't even mind the fact that it felt like he just brushes by it. It just seemed natural for the story. But now you're circling back to us, and you with Beauty and the Beast, right? You were saying how it felt like they were cinema sins. There was a little plot hole, and they felt the need to elaborate it. It felt like they circled back and elaborated on this thing that again was unnecessary. We just brushed by it, and you added all these facets with Sandman there that just why? Sandman's just a villain. Can he just be the villain? And Peter's like, I got them because I'm Spider-Man. I'm good. And then it turns into fucking Les Mis. When it's like, oh, he was just trying to steal some bread. Is it bad that it's bread? I don't know. I saw Les Mis once years ago. I think that's that. Right. That's Russell Crowe thing. And then Russell Crowe realizes, oh, no, it's not as simple as I thought it is. I'm going to drop off the bridge.
Oh, you know what? The true villain of Spider-Man 3, the U.S. medical care system.
For bringing back Harry, I don't.
No, for Sandman's daughter.
Oh, because he needs money for. I see what you mean. It's the same way how they're villains in Breaking Bad. I feel I need like a moment with the daughter at the end. Something to make Sandman more than just his relationship with Spider-Man, because that's what it felt like he was in the movie by the end. Right? Why did he need to keep fighting Spider-Man if he had the money? And if he didn't have the money, why wouldn't he try to get money again?
Because Spider-Man would keep trying to stop him and trying to kill him.
I guess. His relationship with Peter was never important to him until Peter reveals that he killed Uncle Ben. He was related to Uncle Ben, right? And yet it feels like the Sandman-Peter relationship was important to Sandman, which it wasn't. It wasn't.
Again, for Sandman, no. I really see it as like he's an obstacle in my way to getting this thing that I need for my daughter. And like he tried to kill me.
Okay. Can you hear me? I
yes.
stepped back. Okay. I'm gonna come closer.
But it is a little more.
Yeah, I'm gonna come closer to the microphone because I want those dulcet tones to be captured on recording.
Did you watch with any of the commentaries?
I wouldn't do that the first time I watched the movie. I need to experience the movie first. Why?
I don't know. I was surprised to see that on the DVD. So I was like, you know what? Maybe one of these days I'll watch with the commentaries.
Most movies have those on their DVD. It bothers me when a movie doesn't have a commentary on DVD.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Were you unaware?
I was, yeah.
That's like the special feature for most movies.
I mean, I guess I just don't delve into the special features that often.
Nowadays, that's like the only special feature if you're lucky. Because
if you're lucky,
well, they don't do special features anymore, and it makes me sad. Yeah, I haven't sat down and listened to the commentary in a while, but I do enjoy it when I do.
I remember when I was playing through Deus Ex Human Revolution, there were a couple moments where I turned on that commentary track.
No, that's fine. All right.
This is a complete non sequitur.
Why did Franco die? Couldn't he just punch Venom or tackle him? He had to be stabbed in the same way his father was.
I don't know. I thought that was kind of poetic.
Okay. All right. Again, I just didn't believe the duo, so I wish I saw the movie you saw. That's how it is when I don't like a movie. I'm like, I wish I saw it the way that someone who liked it did, because it's probably so much more fun and enjoyable. Yeah, I did like the moment early on of him and Mary Jane having their little date on the web. That was a cute moment. Again, Rosemary Harris. I'm not familiar with her outside of the Spider-Man movies. She's an Academy Award nominated actress, as it turns out. She's very lovely in these movies. What is Toby Mcguire doing these days?
You know what? I feel like a good amount of these people are just getting those residuals.
Sure, but like I feel like Toby Mcguire is 100% of the same ilk as a Daniel Radcliffe or an Elijah Wood. And those two, you'll see them pop up in little smaller projects because they can do whatever they want because they have that franchise money, right? But I feel like we never see Toby Mcguire anymore. I think he said Toby BB, but yeah, we don't see Toby Mcguire anymore.
He was in Boss Baby.
Oh, did you hear the sequels coming straight to like Peacock or something, along with theaters?
I assume it would be on Netflix because Netflix got that Boss Baby TV show.
Nah, DreamWorks. Back in DreamWorks is.
Oh, right, they're on Paramount.
Is it Paramount? Oh, maybe it is Paramount and not Peacock. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, they had that Netflix show, Boss Baby Back in Business.
Yeah, the same way that Netflix had the Marvel shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, what has Toby been doing recently? Oh, he produces a lot of stuff. Oh, Z for Zachariah. Brittany runs a marathon.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, he just decided to step back from being an actor. Which, you know what, good for him.
Mm-hmm. He still does some stuff, but yeah, good for him. Kirsten Dunst was like the indie movie lady for a while. I feel like
she was in Melancholia, the classic, starring, directed by a man who during the press tour for that really put his foot in his mouth
I send that to you. I love that. I saw that on Twitter, sent it to you, and you're like, oh, I know what this is. I was like, how did I never see this before? Oh, I forget she's in Bring It On. Bring It On is shockingly very fun, delightful. Um, we both saw Beguiled. She
Oh
saw it in
yeah.
that. And shout out to her in 2004. She had both Spider-Man 2 and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
What a year for her. Oh, she is in Hidden Figures.
Wait, what?
Hidden Figures,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
space movie. Yeah, she's there. Shoutouts to I'm watching the first one, right?
Mhm.
And Peter goes to sign up to like, hey, I'm going to go fight the dude and wrestle.
Oh yeah,
And the lady
Macho
at the
Man
desk,
Randall said. Oh,
no, the lady at the desk, Academy Award winner Octavia Spencer. Shoutouts to her. And it turns out it's her birthday today, the day we recorded. May 25th. I saw on Twitter it's her birthday, so that's awesome. And we haven't even touched, Spider-Man 3 ends. Sony's like, damn, we still want to make more Spider-Man. Let's reset the whole thing, right? They do the Amazing Spider-Man. And they're like, wow, most people hate these. Let's reset it again. They do the MCU. And although they completely reset it, spoiler alert for Spider-Man Far From Home, they don't completely reset it. Because who's back? Motherfucking Academy Award winner J.K. Simmons. He's back as J. Jonah Jameson. And I think I talk about how there's a whimsy and a fun to this trilogy, and it's most captured in the J. Jonah Jameson films moments. And even just him and his entire team of the people tossing ideas, like that's fun. I enjoyed this
that
group.
moment where he had like the table full of pills and like
Like, oh, we're in a farce. We're watching a farce now.
just like he was about to take the pill and it was open and then the buzz
flies all over the place. Elizabeth Banks is his assistant. She's what's her character's name? Do you remember Elizabeth Banks' name?
No.
Betty Brant. Because Betty Brant shows up in the MCU Spider-Man. I believe. No, I'm wrong. I know Felicity Jones is in the Amazing Spider-Man. And I thought that was her character. She's a different Spider-Man character. But no, she shows the character has an iteration later on.
But like one thing I will give J. Jonah Jameson, he does protect his own. Like that one moment in Spider-Man 1, it says a lot where like Green Goblin captures him and he protects Peter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's a complex character, right? He
Yeah.
has his outer shell, but really deep down he's a softie.
And like, you know what? That's one of the moments that really made 2 for me, where he was like coming to terms with like, you know what? Maybe I was wrong about Spider-Man.
And then
He's a good and then like the suit gets taken from his wall.
I'm put it out there because I mentioned I don't love the first 2 Spider-Man. I enjoyed them very much. Very disappointed when the DVDs that we had were full screen, not widescreen. But it weirdly made me feel like I was back in like early 2000s, so I didn't mind it. But I think if I were to rewatch them, they'll grow on me. It's that thing of like, oh, they're supposed to be great. So like, oh, prove that you're great.
Again, in terms of like cinematography, the way he's like holding up that paper to like the ceiling and just saying, I want Spider-Man. And then it just pulls out.
Shouts to the cinematographer Bill Pope, who I believe does all the Spider. No, he only did 2 and 3. Other films Bill Pope did Clueless, Bound by the Wachowskis, as well as the Matrix trilogy, Bedazzled, Scott Pilgrim, Men in Black 3.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
Talented cinematographer. I'm confused with Dick Pope, another cinematographer, I believe. Yeah. I thought Danny Elfman did all 3 Spider-Men, but this one was done by Christopher Young. I'm not too familiar with him. I'm looking at him right now, and even looking at this list, I'm not too familiar with his films. But the music in these movies do not need to go off as hard as they do. And originally it was Danny
Like
Elfman, but now
Danny
Young's, they
Elfman,
were
like bringing in that bombastic nature to it.
Yeah, it is this. A lot of the whimsy and fantastical nature, I think, does come from the score, and Elfman in the first two, and even Christopher Young is one I think does a great job capturing that. And I'd be remiss not mentioning them. Well, I think that's all I got.
Yeah.
On this picture.
Yeah, I think
Anything?
I'm good too. Yeah.
You know what bothered me?
What bothered you?
At Harry's funeral, it's Peter on one side, MJ on the other side looking down, like, okay, that's fine. They're supposed to be his two friends. And from behind her,
Oh
you
yeah,
see,
why was Gwen there?
oh, I was gonna say Flash Thompson's there. But yeah, Gwen too. But why is Flash Thompson there? All right. So that was our discussion on Spider-Man, not 1, not 2, not Homecoming, not Far From Home, not The Amazing 1, not The Amazing 2, not even Into the Spider-Verse, but rather Spider-Man 3. And I think we've come to a conclusion that this film's, this film is just like Citizen Kane, The Godfather, Schindler's List, Finding Dory. Come on, how are they the same? You're right.
I don't know
perfect.
because Schindler's List is pretty much perfect. I don't know about you.
I've never seen Schindler's List. Should I not have said that? I've never seen it.
I didn't know you were racist like that, Masinson.
Oh no.
Y'all cancel Masinson for saying Schindler's List is not perfect, please.
I'm sorry, Pawan, but I'm just like cinema. I'm just like every film. No film is perfect. And so it's time for us to improve this movie.
All right.
You hear me slapping my hands?
I do.
That I'm proving a point.
Yes.
All right. Do you want to start off, or am I starting off this week?
You know what? You could start off.
Ooh, I'm starting off. Okay. So many fucking characters in this movie. So many characters in the trilogy not fully fleshed out. So what are we gonna do? All right. Venom comes in, right? The symbiote attaches to people. Yes?
Okay. Yeah.
Kirsten Dunst does nothing in these movies. So obviously symbiote attaches itself to MJ, thus making MJ Venom. I think because she's mad at Peter, it'll allow her to do some fun stuff and explore those characters, right? So MJ is now Venom. That's the first change. When it comes to the final fight, somehow symbiote leaves MJ, but Eddie Brock is still there taking pictures. So he becomes Venom again. And they're fighting. They're doing their thing. They're punching. They're web slinging. You know what they do? They're throwing quips as a Spider-Man may do. And Spidey realizes, oh, symbiote afraid of sound? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So symbiote afraid of sound. What do we do? Now Mary Jane, she's upstairs or downstairs with the soon-to-be corpse of James Franco. And James Franco's sad, but he also knows he did the right thing. And so she's like, I gotta get someone to help. He's like, no, just stay here, comfort me. And so she starts singing. But for some reason, there's a microphone nearby that picks up her singing. And the singing's so loud that just like the noises, it scares off the symbiote. So Mary Jane sings to save the day, and then the ending plays out as it does. Shout out to Kirsten Dunst, to my understanding, actually did sing in the movie. That was nice. And so, yeah, that is how I fixed this movie.
That's solid. You know what? As one of my fixes, I'm going to build off of what you just said.
Oh.
And like make Eddie Brock more active.
Okay, what is Eddie doing?
So maybe towards the end, he hangs out with that professor, and then you get a flashback, and you see him in the background of all the class lectures. And like he's
Okay.
like, how do I get this to like how do I multiply this? So for that final fight, there's not just one Venom. There's many Venoms.
Oh my God.
And then uh Kirsten Dunst has to be like, okay, how do I get my power, my voice to amplify throughout the city?
Okay.
Because he just spreads it all over the city. And like Spider-Man's like, I don't know what to do. And then Kirsten Dunst's like, I do. And then she heads over to a place that has a lot of speakers.
I like that. I go, oh, there's a speaker nearby, and you go, she goes to a place with speakers.
With a lot
so
of
many,
them. And then like
many
you
in the
see
city.
the sound wave go throughout the city, and then it just like breaks all the Venoms.
I see. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Not so much about how you fixed it, but one of the aspects of it. That teacher that he brought the symbiote to, right?
Mhm.
Who was like, I'm not a biologist. I'm not the best person to look at this. What was that small amount he still has?
What?
He has a small amount that he never gives back to Peter, right?
Yeah.
What happens to it?
I don't know. Maybe he burned it in a like scientific way.
Okay. I don't know. He's a.
We're gonna add that scene in
not
there. We're gonna add that scene where he's like, you know what? The world should not have this, and then like the scientific like decontamination that kills that symbiote.
I see.
And maybe he's the one who learns the secret.
May toss out another possibility. He, for some reason, gives it to Aunt May, who sails out to the water, looks at the symbiote, and then drops it into the water.
Thus causing it to spread.
I just referencing Titanic, but sure. All right, how else would you fix this movie?
So you know what? There's we could agree. There's two like Spider-Man movies that stand above all the rest, right?
Go on. I don't know if I agree, but go on.
There's Into the Spider-Verse and there's Spider-Man 2. What do these movies have in common? They both have a soundtrack album.
I think 3 does as well.
No, it does not.
1 probably does as well.
It does not.
They
have the Danny Elfman score album, but they don't have a soundtrack album.
You go on that. I'm curious now, but you go on that. I'm a fact check this. Go on.
Okay. Here's where I got my sources for this. I checked Spotify. It only had the score for 1 and 3, but it had the soundtrack albums for 2 and Spider-Verse.
Spider-Man, music from and inspired by the film. Theme Spider-Man, Hero by Chad Kroeger, Josie something, but we're all about Sum 41, etc., etc. Yeah, there's. But let's go. Let's continue.
But is there one for 3? Is there one for 3?
I gotta look up. Give me a sec. There probably is, but give me a sec. Spider-Man 3 soundtrack. So first song, Signal Fire, Snow Patrol. Second, Move Away, The Killers. 3, Ceilings, Yeah, Yeah, Yeahs, etc., etc. Spotify lied to you.
Shit. Well, you know what? I lied. There's 4 perfect movies in the Spider-Man.
No, let me see. The Amazing Spider-Man now has a soundtrack. You can continue your point. We can pretend in this universe to make it better. We take away the soundtracks to 1 and 3.
So for 3, there's that song that's on the DVD Signal Fire by Snow Patrol. So like, let's keep that one. But now let's make a whole album out of big bands that were popular around 2007 that had hits. Okay. So of course we need a song. We need a song by Linkin Park, of course. We need a song by Breaking Benjamin. We need a song by Muse.
Okay.
But like most importantly, you know who else was big around this time? I think U2.
I love your I think. Go on. Well, you know
You
what they
too.
did.
Exactly. This is the origin of how they got into Spider-Man and how they became one with the franchise.
Mm.
It all starts here. That's what I'm saying.
I will
That's
say it looks like the Amazing Spider-Man does not have a soundtrack. I don't know about 2, but yeah. Go on. So this is all a way to get you two involved in this before they do the Spider-Man into this uh, Turn Off the Dark musical.
correct.
Okay.
Yes. And some other small fixes here and there. You know what? By the end of the movie, let's let Sandman give the money to his kid and then disappear into the night. Let's do that.
Thank you. I needed that.
I'm good.
Cool. I like that your fix was say, "Hey, this band should make a song for the movie."
Yeah. Listen, are you telling me that the soundtracks don't make these movies? The
They're an
score,
aspect, they
the
don't
the
make it.
music involved.
They're an aspect, they don't make it. See, Amazing Spider-Man 2, its album, like the first 90% is the score, but then there's a song by Pharrell.
That doesn't count.
There's a song by Alicia Keys featuring Kendrick Lamar.
I don't know. That doesn't count.
All right. But yeah, most of these films have soundtracks. I haven't even checked if the MCU ones do, but okay. Well, that's how we'd fix this movie. Pawan, we gave our opinions.
Right.
We had a lot of thoughts about how maybe this movie could be better, could be worse. But why would we use opinions in a movie about science? Peter's a scientist. He goes to science school as a teacher with a microscope. This is such a scientific film that we must apply the sciences. That's why they're applied sciences, right? We must apply them to the movie. And so,
Okay.
Pawan, it is time for us to rank.
Heads.
All right. So, as always, we flip a coin to see who we're asking to signify the magic of this. Tails. So it's on me. Wow, Tails. All right, Pawan. What was last week's movie?
Us.
No, last week's movie is Fate of Furious. Last week's movie is Fate of Furious.
Oh, okay. Is this better or worse than Fate of the Furious?
Worse.
Is this better or worse than Zootopia?
Say worse.
Is this better or worse than Star Wars The Force Awakens?
I'm going to say worse.
Is this better or worse than Titanic?
Worse than Titanic.
Is it better or worse than Jurassic World?
Which Bryce Dallas Howard vehicle would I rather watch? Weirdly, and this shocks me, I'd rather watch Jurassic World.
Is this better or worse than Frozen?
Worse than Frozen. You can't build a snowman in here.
Is this better or worse than Minions?
Well, that's the one you went to next?
Well, yeah.
Okay, worse than Minions.
Is this
I was
better?
ready for another answer, but okay.
Is this better or worse than The Dark Knight Rises?
Wow, that's a question. That is quite the question. I don't know what the answer is. For the sound effects, I'll say better.
Okay. Is this movie better or worse?
No, that's it. That's it. So
Okay.
Is it better than? So it's more the random number generator, right? So min of 21 and max of 21.
Oh yeah,
Number
that's
is
exactly where it was.
21.
Oh, hey.
Wow. Spider-Man 3 at number 21. All right, Paul, let's recap the list.
All right, at 47, we have Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides.
46, Alice in Wonderland.
At 45, Toy Story 3.
44, Avatar.
41, Transformers Dark of the Moon.
40, Avengers Age of Ultron.
38, Transformers Age of Extinction.
37, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest.
35, Captain America Civil War.
34, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
33, Dark Knight Rises.
32, The Dark Knight.
31, Marvel's The Avengers.
30, Minions.
The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. 28.
At number 7, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
At number 7, okay. Number 6, we have
27.
I did not hear the 20.
I apologize.
All right.
What?
At 26, we have Jurassic Park.
25, Iron Man 3.
24, Frozen.
22, Jurassic World.
Tied at 21, we got Finding Dory, Spider-Man 3, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and Us.
Number 20, Beauty and the Beast.
20 minus 1, meaning 19, Titanic.
13, Star Wars The Force Awakens.
11, Zootopia.
7, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story.
6, Fate.
3,
The Fate of the Furious.
Number 3, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King.
Number 7 being number 2, Furious 7.
What? Number 1, Skyfall. Pawan, how is it that after all these weeks we got worse at reading lists? It's a spreadsheet. And we both got worse at reading it.
I mean, listen, numbers and words are hard.
Yeah, especially with the 3.
That's why it takes you years to learn how to read.
Yeah. Well, that was this week's episode of the $1 Billion Movie Club. Thank you for joining us on this bonus episode where we discussed Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3.
Who was right? Who was wrong? Email us at the email that will be below in the description.
Sure. Email us, send them emails. Pawan, what's that email? Because I straight up do not remember what it is.
$1 Billion Movie Club at google.com.
Google?
Yes, at Google.
Will it work if you put that?
I don't know. Gmail. Are you happy?
Yes.
Are you happy?
Because I don't know if the other one would have worked.
Listen, I'm just here to make you happy, Miss Simpson. All right. Are you happy? Then my job is done.
You made me watch this movie. All right. Just follow us on Spotify's, the Google Podcast, the Apple Podcast. Subscribe on the YouTube. Leave your comments and like.
And you know what? Follow our mailing list. we got the email for a reason.
And with that, join us next week when we discuss Minions 3.
What? What happened to Minions 2?
Despicable Me 3. Next week we're talking about Despicable Me 3. Okay, that's it. Goodbye. Good riddance.
Okay, pause. We're going to pause here.
What?
I thought the whole point is we were going to keep these all on the same line. That's what we did with the previous two.
The punchline is that it ends at 21. Whatever we say will end up at 21.
Okay, sorry.
Unpause.
Oh, right. I'm going to get my cup of water.
Okay. Cool. And while you do that, I will amuse, perhaps, for the post-credit scene. I never know. That's something we decide after. This was a film. It starred some people. Really underutilized, a lot of them. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a Steve McQueen film. It's a shame. Hello and